The moment he saw her, he didn't expect his world to tilt. She was just a waitress, juggling trays and smiles, completely unaware that tonight's dinner would change everything. Across the table, the CEO's daughter, dressed in elegance that seemed worlds apart from this tiny diner, laughed at something he said. But it wasn't just her laugh, it was the way she looked at him, with genuine curiosity and warmth that cut through the noise of his ordinary life. "Daddy, can we keep her?" she whispered, a mischievous sparkle in her eyes that made his heart skip. He froze, not because of her words, but because he knew her father, the powerful, influential CEO, would never approve. Yet here she was, daring to dream beyond her gilded cage. And suddenly, he felt like he'd been invited into a story he'd never imagined for himself. The diner around them buzzed with ordinary life, oblivious to the extraordinary tension at their table. He glanced at her, trying to mask the mix of fear, disbelief, and hope swirling inside him. Could someone like her ever truly belong in his world? Could he belong in hers? And then, just as their conversation dipped into something deeper, the CEO's text appeared on her phone, short, sharp, and commanding attention. He didn't read it, but he felt the weight of it, and so did she. Their night, filled with laughter and unspoken attraction, suddenly felt fragile, as if one wrong move could shatter everything. He remembered the first time he had noticed her in the diner. She moved with quiet confidence. Even when the lunch rush was chaos, there was something about her smile that stayed with him long after he left the small wooden tables behind. She wasn't flashy or pretentious. She didn't try to impress anyone. And yet, when she laughed, it felt like she could light up the whole room. That kind of warmth was rare, something money couldn't buy, no matter how many zeros were in someone's bank account. Meanwhile, she had her own story, one that no one in her world of wealth or privilege could truly understand. She was used to luxury, fine dining, and people bending over backwards to impress her. Yet tonight, she had wanted something different, something real, something that reminded her she was still human, not just an heiress with a name and expectations. And in that tiny diner, with the hum of the refrigerators and the clatter of plates around them, she felt it, a connection that was immediate, raw, and dangerous. Her father's power loomed over them both, unspoken but palpable. He had built an empire where rules were clear, and emotions were a complication to manage. He would never approve of her fascination with a young man from a world so far removed from theirs. Yet she couldn't ignore the spark, the pull that felt too strong to resist. As they talked, sharing pieces of their lives in whispers and smiles, neither of them realized how much was at stake. Outside the diner, the city carried on, but inside, a quiet storm was brewing, one that could change everything. Would they find a way to bridge their worlds, or would the barriers around them be too high to cross? As the night wore on, the tension between them grew in ways neither expected. He tried to focus on small talk, asking about her favorite books and music, but each answer seemed to pull them closer into a world they weren't supposed to share. She spoke with ease about her passions, her dreams beyond the shadow of her father's empire, while he listened, captivated, feeling the divide between their lives more acutely than ever. The diner suddenly felt like a sanctuary, a place where the rules of wealth and status didn't matter, at least for now. But the reality of their worlds pressed in relentlessly. In her life, every move was scrutinized. The CEO's expectations weren't just for her, they carried the weight of the family name, the company, and public perception. One wrong choice, one emotional misstep, could be headline news. And yet, she couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward him, someone whose life had been shaped by hard work, struggle, and simple pleasures. Meanwhile, he wrestled with his own doubts. Could he even belong in her world? The thought of being judged, of being dismissed as just a waiter, gnawed at him. And yet, each laugh, each glance, each quiet touch of her hand over the table made him believe that maybe, just maybe, there was a chance. Unseen by them, the city outside hummed with opportunity and danger. A text from her father had arrived earlier, a silent warning. Decisions were coming, and secrets were waiting to surface, secrets that could pull them apart before they even had a chance to begin. Their night was far from over, and every choice, every word, felt like it could tip the balance. The question lingered. How far would they dare to go for something that might be impossible? By the time dessert arrived, the air between them had grown thick with unspoken words. Every glance, every hesitant smile, carried a weight neither of them could ignore. She brushed a strand of hair from her face, pretending to be distracted by her plate, but he noticed. He noticed everything, the slight tremble in her hand, the way her eyes lingered on his a moment too long, the warmth that seemed to radiate from her even in the dim diner light. The distant buzz of the city outside felt worlds away. In that small corner of the world, it was just the man, the impossible choices looming over their heads. He wanted to ask her to stay, to let this connection grow, but fear rooted him in place. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of the consequences if her father found out. And she, for all her privilege, felt a similar pull, the desire to break free from a life scripted for her, to follow her heart even if it meant defying everything she had ever known. Then her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, her face flickering with uncertainty. It was a message from her father, terse and commanding. The words on the screen seemed to crackle with authority. a reminder that their night of laughter and connection existed in a fragile bubble. He saw the hesitation in her eyes and the way her fingers tightened around the phone. In that moment, the diner seemed to shrink around them, the world outside pressing in. One choice, one word, could change everything. Could they risk the consequences for a chance at something real? Or would the invisible walls of wealth and status crush their budding connection before it even began? The tension was unbearable, and the answer hung in the air, waiting for the next move. Before she could respond to the message, the diner door swung open, and a familiar figure stepped in. Her father. The CEO. He wasn't supposed to be here, not tonight, and certainly not in a place like this. His sharp gaze swept across the room, landing on them with a mixture of disbelief and controlled anger. The warmth they had built evaporated instantly, replaced by a tension so thick it felt like it could crack. She froze, caught between loyalty to her family and the pull she felt toward him. Her father's presence was more than intimidating. It was a reminder of the walls their worlds had built. He approached, his expensive shoes clicking against the tile floor, and she could see the calculation in his eyes, the scrutiny, the judgment, the silent demand for explanation. For him, the moment was equally crushing. He had thought the night was theirs, a brief escape from reality. Now, standing in front of the man who controlled her life, he felt small, exposed, and painfully aware of the social chasm between them. Every word, every gesture, every choice mattered now more than ever. The CEO's voice finally broke the silence, smooth but cutting. "I didn't expect to find you here," he said, glancing at her and then at him. The words weren't just a greeting, they were a test, a warning, and a challenge, all at once. Suddenly, the night that had felt like a quiet bubble of connection became a battlefield of power, desire, and risk. Their laughter and stolen glances were now overshadowed by the question, would they dare to defy everything for a chance at love? Or would the weight of expectation crush their fragile bond before it even had a chance to grow? The stakes had never been higher, and the answers were still uncertain. The tension in the diner reached a breaking point. Her father's eyes bore into him, sharp and unyielding, but he finally found his voice. "Sir, I don't have money, I don't have connections, but I care about your daughter, and I won't lie about who I am," he said, his tone steady despite the storm around them. For a moment, silence ruled. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but unwavering. "Daddy, I choose him. I choose what feels real, not what looks perfect on paper." Her words were simple, yet they carried the weight of defiance, hope, and love all at once. The CEO's expression flickered between anger, surprise, and something softer, perhaps understanding, but before anyone could respond, the unexpected happened. A commotion outside the diner drew their attention. Police cars pulled up, lights flashing, and the owner of the diner hurried in, breathless. "There's been a mix-up. Someone reported a robbery, but it's a false alarm. They said a young woman and her companion were involved, but it's a mistake." The moment broke the tension, giving them both space to breathe. Her father, realizing the chaos had nothing to do with them, softened further. He took a deep breath and, for the first time, smiled faintly. "Perhaps, love isn't always predictable," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. They stepped outside together, hearts still racing, aware that their worlds had collided in ways no one expected. Just as relief settled in, her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't her father, it was a message from someone else. Someone who had been watching far closer than they knew. The words on the screen made them freeze. "I know what happened tonight, and this changes everything."